Hello, hello, hello. Ciao Matteo.
Ciao Luca, hi everybody. Hello, welcome back.
And we are back.
Yay.
Today actually is an interesting chat because kind of like that is a hot topic nowadays in enterprise and something that basically the two of us have been
Haha.
seeing for a long time and connecting with many customers, users, and is the hidden costs and challenges of running Next.js in enterprise, which basically means on your own hardware or cloud, basically not on any, let's say, platform as a service. And we know maybe to what we are hinting to. So I think let's start maybe, Theo, telling everyone a little bit the model that Next.js implements and a little bit maybe we can then go into distributed rendering and then ISR. What do you think?
Let's go through it, Luca.
Let's get it.
Let's do it. So, first of all, I wanted to start with talking a little bit of why somebody would want to run Next.js in self-hosted in the enterprise, or why a company will do that. I think that's probably like this is a question that a lot of people would say, why would you do that instead of running in on Vercel? Okay, and why would somebody would do that? Because this is the fundamental question. A lot of people would start, presumably, and I think is a very widespread pattern of usage of Next.js. So I think that would be the case. In your experience, Luca, what is the key driver?
The driver in the enterprise, you mean?
Yes.
Well, for sure is probably the redundant thing that we discussed, the CapEx versus OpEx. I already bought some hardware. I want to use it at the extreme. The other reason why, on the opposite side, where I see teams wanting to go to Vercel, is kind of like offloading the complexity of managing the infrastructure configuration and so on and so forth, and also kind of like not having to think how to scale it, which is another kind of like challenge that we saw.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is also a little bit in case of data sovereignty and being near to databases or other critical infrastructure. Okay, I think there is definitely also some of that. Okay.
Yeah, especially when you build a full stack app, right? Because
Yeah.
the front end is not there, but for all the server components and all the server side part, that's definitely something that is kind of like required in certain environments. If you think about compliance environment or government and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So, but let's kind of like deep dive a little bit into the kind of like heart, the nucleus of the problem, right? That is, how does exactly Next work, and what is the main challenge there?
Okay, so the fundamental problem is that at least how it's perceived outside. Okay, for a long time, Next.js has been designed as like Next.js and the Vercel Cloud have been designed one next to each other. So they wanted to offer a certain kind of feature for a user of both products. And some of it was done, some development of it is done in Next. Some other development of it was done in the Vercel Cloud, which is, I think, that the direction in which it was going. And for some features, there was really no thinking or design thinking in how would I self-host and scale those solutions if I was not deploying on Vercel Cloud. Okay.
But also the packaging, right? So when you say scaling, you mean probably also the packaging,
Yeah, all of it,
distribution.
the full system. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of it. Okay. It's there are so let's start talking about the runtime aspects, and then we can talk a little bit about the packaging. There are two things. Okay, first of all is the distributed system type of problem. Okay, and especially related to caching. Now, this is the first point in our agenda, which is ISR cache, and you use cache patterns. Okay, by default, if you use Next.js, it will cache on disk. Now, we all know that in a distributed system, you cannot really cache on disk. The moment you start caching things on disk is the moment where you move is the moment where you move the data incorrectly, because you have depending on the server, a user might see some cache data versus some other cache data, and cache inconsistencies becomes very, very troubling. And also cache invalidations. Okay, how do you invalidate a cache that is on disk on a machine without creating some sort of network substrate between all of them? So this is the fundamental big problem that we are on that point.
You mean when you say file system, you mean local file system? So in a pod is the mounted
Yes.
file system and so on. But I
Yes.
mean, in that case, couldn't I just use a Sun or
Well, in theory, yeah. In theory, you could. How much is reliable all of this, though?
You mean what kind of reliability? The reliability of the
Of using a SAN, a networked SAN for implementing that. Like, how
this
common is that deployment structure, Luca?
No, that's the thing, right? Is you and then you incur into the other problem that file system writes, they are subject to concurrency, right? And so they're going to be into optimistic concurrency. Then you need to implement a queue, and then you basically fall back into saying I should have used Redis. That's the usual thing.
Come on! So you should have used Redis to begin with.
I mean, they solve two different problems, but the reality, going back to your question, is that deploying a Sun in modern infrastructure is probably something not as common as seeing S3.
Yay! Exactly. So that's the problem. You want to use Redis for the cache, and in somehow, somewhere, there is some snippet of code saying, "Oh, you can use Redis for this." Okay, and this is an example. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not a maintained module. It doesn't have all the features. It doesn't have all the capability. Okay.
Yeah, but it gives you the initial kickstart, right? To
It
get
gives you
something
the
done.
initial kickstart, but it's perfectly clear that's not one of the researched model for that
Yeah.
system was tested upon. Okay, and was part of the initial design. So, or at least it's not marketed as such. Okay, things are not made easy for that path. Okay, this is essentially kind of the big problem of those systems. Okay, now, and it's tricky, because if you don't use some sort of shared cache manager for your system, then you can get a little bit in trouble too, because imagine a case where you have cross-region caches that needs to be synchronized, and you need to code all of that complexity, all of that complexity yourself. Okay, this is and this is the important part. Like, given this setup, there are at least several very, very big organizations that are deploying Next.js at scale on Kubernetes that we have the fortune to chat with, Luca, right? That are implemented a lot of these key pieces of infrastructure, key pieces of code that it's I don't know, it's very weird. Okay, I find it a little bit off.
Yeah.
Um, hmm?
Yeah, no, I
Weird.
agree. I think the
Like none of this is shared publicly, right? Like
no.
everybody's in developing their own thing, their own automation, their own packaging. Okay, we need to go into packaging. This is I have stories there, but this is
Not only, I think that the biggest challenge that you basically kind of like see with running Next is the overall cost also of running Next website at scale, right? If you don't have all these capabilities that you just mentioned. But yeah, let's jump into packaging because I think is the interesting piece. So where do we start?
Next piece is the performance of Next. Okay. Next is slow. Okay. And
Why?
ha. Um, if something is slow, there are two reasons. Okay. Something is inherently very complex to do and required a lot of computation. Okay.
Yeah.
Some is some bad design decisions were made to begin with that made that model incredibly hard. So those computations are needed. Okay. And third, it's performance has never been in the in the bingo card for the team to fulfill. Okay.
But it powers like some huge websites with plenty of traffic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are a few key things. Okay, few important things. Okay, so if you're really good at using caching with Next, okay, you have very little server side load. So you know what? It's great. Okay, you can, if you leverage cache correctly, your content is mostly cached. Everything is super smooth, super fast. You're not doing a lot of server-side rendering, which is the most important, very expensive thing. Now, we have talked about this last time. Okay, in the last podcast, the biggest problem with React is React server-side rendering costs
Yeah.
and how much is tied to the full DOM model, virtual DOM model that JSX is forcing upon users, and all that re-rendering and traversing of that massive data structure that happens every single time. Okay? To be clear, that is the first problem. Okay? Then Next.js adds a lot of complexity on top of it. Okay? So first thing is there is a lot of internal streams that are happening for rendering a page to support all the various modes of Next, and all those streams needs to coalesce into one to send the data out, and all of this is massive amount of work for your servers. Massive, like it's incredibly high. And a lot of people that I know very well have been trying to optimize this in a long time. And I'm quoting what they told me. I can dig deep into the code base. I didn't dig too much, to be honest. But the end result here is that optimizing that thing is a massive amount of work. Okay, it's very complex too. Okay, because there's a lot of different modes in which Next.js can work, and they have adding a lot of phenomenal developer experience on top, which is good. Okay, but there is a price to pay for that developer experience. So there is
And what is
something that
what is the price in your opinion for that?
the price is compute cost. So
So they went for adoption against scaling, basically, like adopting, so scaling on people and not
yeah, they correctly are as they it's built on the thesis, okay, that developer cost is very high was very high versus running costs was
very
very
little compare, right?
very little to compare. So you need to optimize for developers' time to make sure that they get the best. The companies using the framework get the best of their bugs, which is now they were not wrong considering the moment when this was spawned. Okay. The equation changes, of course, on the value of the transaction. Okay, like depending on it really depends on the type of application you are building with it. So if it's it, it depends how much is valued the transaction that each user is making. Okay, if most of your views are provide no money to you, it's very troubling to to host somewhere. Okay, it might not be even the right technology. um Now some e-commerce still do, because they have, even though they have massive incoming data, they can use cache, and they can, lower the amount of personalizations and so on and so forth, so that in practice it's actually not that problematic. Okay,
Yeah.
it's doable, but it requires a lot of discipline, because it does a lot. That framework does a lot. Okay, and to be honest, some of it is just like, wow. I'm not like it. All of that engineering is actually quite stunning to some extent. Okay, um, so I think it's a good it's a good framework for quite a lot of use cases. More importantly, though, it has won a phenomenal amount of followers as developers. And look, that is worth a lot. Okay, if a company wants to adopt that framework, they surely can hire people very easily that knows that technology, and they will be productive from more or less day one. This is for enterprise, for companies, is phenomenally valuable, more than a lot of other things. So and it's one of the drivers for adopting a technology, to be honest. Okay, so
Yeah,
yay.
depending on the priorities, right, that the
Yes.
company has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm talking about most that I'm talking about an average that is typically not a tech company. Okay,
You think about a bank, for
I'm
example.
talking about a bank. Okay, a shoe producer. Okay, I am talking about some e-commerce, but that they're not attack e-commerce. Okay, they are essentially they do other stuff. Okay, they sell physical goods, they sell experience, they sell things, but they're not, they're not a tech company at heart.
Mm.
So no, it's phenomenal, to be honest. I really like it as the thesis behind it. So it's
Yeah, but from theory to practice, where is
well,
the
the
gap then?
fundamental problem is that is the unpredictable latency and the surge in event loop blocking that you can have with that thing. Okay, because it's a massive amount of computation which is CPU bound, and we all know that JavaScript is probably was not really built for CPU bound tasks, big CPU bound tasks. Okay, and you receive a massive amount, you can receive an unbounded amount of rendering to be done, and all of those are going to take a few very expensive CPU cycles, and things are going to get blocked.
So your point is, imagine that I'm an enterprise that he kind of like listen to what we are saying, right?
Yeah.
And they're questioning their choice, right?
Yeah.
So you still think that their choice is correct in terms of experience and accessibility of the framework guidelines, basically everything that makes a framework a kind of like interesting for such an environment.
Yeah.
However, they need to accept and recognize the hidden cost of running it, depending on their scale. Like
Yes.
there is
Like
an accept, there is a compromise.
I've seen very in a lot of cases, a lot of projects. Um, I've seen it in a lot of cases that they were, having a significant multiplier in terms of predicted running costs of the infrastructure needed to run Next.js.
Okay, that for certain companies is an acceptable kind of like
For certain
compromise.
companies, no problem. Like what is 100 or 200K? For others, oops, is life and death. Okay, so it can be, you need to do your math essentially.
And so you mentioned in the beginning that clearly the use cache, oh my god, incremental static rendering and so on and so forth are kind of like new features that the latest version brought. But you also mentioned kind of like the changes that were made overall in the new runtime, and then we should go into really bundling packaging and so on and so forth.
So sorry, I completely lost of all the things you asked me to
No, I said we are talking about the next 16, right?
Yes.
So what is new that kind
Oh,
of
the
like
next
tries to
16
bridge this gap?
added this use cache thingy. Okay.
And so how does it make life for people that are running on prem easy?
Oh, it's amazing. Like use cache, it really is. So use cache is phenomenal. Okay. It's use cache is phenomenal. Okay, and it has it allows you to cache any result for any function. It's done via a directive, which makes it a little bit tricky, to be honest. I don't like the concept. Okay, but it's what it is. We should do a session on a long a banter on directives, and look, I think that would be good. But essentially, a directive, you put use cache into your function, and like use strict, and then when the compiler passes it, so to write the code, transpiles the code in a way that the result is cached somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Okay.
So and what is the okay, so interesting, but we were talking about hosting, the
Yeah,
cost of
sorry,
hosting.
it doesn't change. It doesn't change that fact. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's built on the same caching infrastructure of incremental side regeneration, static regeneration. Okay, it's built into the same caching logic, but it allows you to cache any components. Because it allows you to cache any components, it's phenomenal. Because you can essentially have you can cache a result of a function and so on and so forth, and that is can be tied to a specific tag, so that you can do some invalidations, smart invalidations, and things like that.
But let's talk about practical thing. I download the Next 16. I write my page. I put a use cache, and magically I have a Redis instance, and he's going to use the Redis
Nope,
instance.
there is no Redis instance.
Okay. So where is the trick, and where
It
is
caches on disk. It caches on disk. You need to configure.
So we are back to the main point that we did in the beginning, the problem
Yes.
of distributed caching. So it's great for my
Yes.
single page, single node websites, but
Yes.
terrible when I'm in Kubernetes or any elastic system.
Yes, exactly.
So it means that use cache makes sense unless I don't want to write a humongous. Is that extensible? Can I write an adapter for Redis or?
Yes, you can, and we did.
Yeah, no,
Quite
but
fanatically,
can I just like, because last time we spoke also about the concept of worlds and
yeah,
does
you
it
can.
follow
It's
the
very
same
easy to do.
pattern?
It's very easy to do.
Okay, so basically, theoretically, I could go on npm, download my new use cache Redis implementation,
Yeah.
and I'm basically like Vercel.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you're missing a lot of things, but yeah.
Like?
There are a lot of features that Vercel is a CDN, so you have that distribution across the globe, which is useful.
Okay, but I could potentially write an adapter that has use cache that connects to Cloudflare.
No, that won't work in that way. Okay.
Why?
Use cache is specific on the server side, so it allows you to
Okay.
cache a result of a component of a component.
Okay.
Of a function. So that thing, it runs on the server, which needs to be near your database. So this is not really distributable.
So it's a server directive between
It's a
quotes.
server only directive. Okay.
And
The ISR and so on and so forth also instead propagates to the main pay, to the CDNs and so on and so forth. You can use standard HTTP caches for that. But yes, anyway, you can roll out your own CDN on top if you want to.
So
So
I'm trying to write down the recipe and the shopping list to build my own Vercel as an enterprise if I don't
it's
want
a
to
lot.
pay.
There is a lot of things. If you want, there is a lot of things. We didn't wasn't really not on the agenda. There's another component that is actually very useful. That was a lot. It's a lot of trouble. Some trouble for a lot of other companies. Is the image handler. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Next.js provide an adapter that automatically resize the images and put them in cache. Okay, that needs is a component that is managed and deployed. This is built inside Next when using the self-hosted mode, but it's not a workload that should really be deployed next to your app. It needs to be deployed and scale it separately. So
Okay,
there
so
is
I'm
that.
just thinking, what if I wanted to build, and here I'm gonna be provocative, the Vercel alternative on Cloudflare.
Oh, there is OpenNext Cloudflare. You should check it out. It's super complex. It's super complex piece of code, but it's doable.
So I need to build a set of workers that they kind of somehow intercept the URL
Yeah,
of the images and they process cached or
yeah,
runtime resizing for
yeah.
those images. Then I need to write my own cache component cache propagator so I can propagate from server side to CDN. I need to write an invalidator and I hope that somebody like Platformatic build the use cache adapter for Redis. Okay. And I guess I need to, and I guess, what about the packaging?
Okay. So um now there was um okay. So the Vercel. Sorry, can you repeat the question, Luca?
Yeah, we spoke about what do I need to do then for the whole packaging part? Because that's
Yes.
I
Yes.
build the app, but somebody needs to take it from
Okay.
my computer to
Yes.
somewhere.
So the path is really, to be honest, if you are a solo developer or a small team, probably the best path is just to use Vercel.
Yeah, but we are talking about an enterprise. An enterprise of one
If
person is not an
if
enterprise.
exactly. Okay. If you're not, well, you should know what you're setting up for. Okay. First of all, you should do an analysis of, are the benefit of using Next worth my time? Okay. And worth my time. And this is the critical part of, there's a lot of infrastructure to be built around it to deploy it
Yeah,
safely.
but exactly. I mean, I was talking about packaging.
So
So
the
what
packaging
exactly
side,
is
the
the?
packaging problem, okay? This is what I was opening up, okay? So back in April, there was, that's why I was distracted. I was fact checking something. There was back in April, there was an RFC opened by Lee Robinson on
Uh,
April 2, okay? Which is called the Deployment Adapters API, which is a new experimental adapter component, okay? That can be specified, okay, and that adapter would essentially provide you hooks so that you can customize the build. So the approach of Next is, whenever you do a build, you need to change some settings, you need to tweak it. Okay, for example,
yeah,
let's put it this way. Let's say you want to build a system that whenever you deploy a Next.js application, it automatically applies the Redis caching configuration for you. So
yeah,
that you have, I don't know, 100 Next.js applications, and you want to standardize all of that, okay? And make sure that all the teams and provide it as a platform like Next.js do, like
yeah.
Vercel does, okay? So far, the only supported way or the only safe way to do that on Next 14 and 15, okay, is to hook up into the loading mechanism of Node.js and using some monkey patching magic, override a few things to intercept that and add that logic in. Okay.
Okay.
And that was really bad. Okay. There is a new API that has been landed in Next 16, okay, which is the build adapter, okay, and the build adapter would provide you a way to change the configuration and alter the build step of the system at build time in a similar way, I think, of what Next.js Vercel is doing in their cloud, so that you can essentially alter things, change them, and so on and so forth to suit the need of your platform. I think this is moving to the next direction, to be honest. It's pretty great.
And okay, so basically, if I want to get a similar experience as the one that you know, developers expect,
Yeah.
there's a lot of work involved, so that would be a point in favor to kind of like look at that angle, you know, to appreciate even more Vercel. But in the enterprise, nobody wants to do like push to deployment. There is compliance, there are checks, there are many
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
So how
There
can I
is.
do that in Vercel?
You can't.
Unless I don't have my CI/CD that
No,
does
you can't.
push.
It doesn't work. So the way Vercel work is you push the source, they do the build for you. So in this build phase, they apply their own magic.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. So I have no choice. Like I
Yes.
cannot decide skip build and I give you the end result of the build.
Nope.
There's no
Nope.
builder locally that I can
Nope.
download.
Nope.
That's a little bit of a challenge, right? When you are in a compliance environment where there are.
It doesn't work. As I said, there is a lot of options in the internet. Like I started at the beginning. What are the reasons why people would not want to do that? And compliance is probably the biggest one.
Okay. But how are then the enterprise that they claim to be on Vercel handling that? That's my question. Because I'm skipping the cost right now, right? I'm looking at everything but the cost.
I don't think they are. Like to be honest,
So a bank that really wants, imagine a bank, right?
I
That wants
might
to
be
use
wrong,
Next.
but I might be wrong that there is a way to skip the build. Okay. To build local. I'm going to ask Luca. Try Google.
You are going to ask.
No, I'm going to ask. Okay. Oh no, there is a way. There is a way.
Okay.
Vercel build command can be used to build a Vercel project locally on your own CI environment. And then when using conjunction with the Vercel deploy dash prebuild command, this allows Vercel deployment to be created without sharing the Vercel project source code with Vercel. So it is possible.
So I can send them an artifact,
Yes.
and they will take care of the artifact.
Yes.
Oh, that's actually cool.
Yes, it is possible. It is so basically, but then you will need to opt out of a lot of the goodies of that platform, essentially.
Yeah. But so we were talking about performance. We were talking about, clearly there are some performances that Vercel has that are unbeatable, like the fact that they are themselves a CDN.
Yeah.
But what if I have already a big contract with, for example, I don't know, Fastly. I just name some other, right? And can I use Fastly inside
Well, a
of
lot of
Vercel?
people are using Fastly in front of Vercel.
So
to be clear, one of the things that we are doing with Node.js, the Node.js.org website is hosted on built with Next and hosted on Vercel. And we deploy Cloudflare in front. Why? Because we also use Node.js.org to serve the binaries, and we passing that through Vercel would have been impossible.
Oh,
Like the amount of bandwidth and data, and it's incredible. Okay, and I would
okay.
thank both Vercel and Cloudflare to be so graciously to donate this to the OpenJS Foundation. So this is for them. It's very good, gracious for both of them. Okay, but to be honest, it was also it's a different share of responsibilities. Okay, we
Sure.
wanted the Node.js.org website to be responsible for the website itself,
Yeah.
and we wanted the serving the binaries to be ended by a separate component also, because it's a two tier of security responsibilities. Okay, serving the binary, like if you mess with the binaries, the big incidents could happen. Okay, if you mess with the website, big incidents could happen, but less so than with the binaries. Let's put it that way.
So in that case, you are implying that you trust Cloudflare more.
No, we want to keep the amount of people that can push out a binary in Node.js is very few, is less than you can have in less than a hand. Okay, there are a lot of people that can push changes to the website.
Okay.
So it's more on who can push changes to the website, more on the like Node.js is an open community project. So anyway, going back to your point, you can put another CDN in front of a CDN.
Yeah, sure. But I mean,
And that works relatively well, to be honest, because Node.js serves incredibly high amount of traffic this way.
okay, but given that the majority of companies they have Kubernetes,
Yeah.
right? How does it fit this whole equation? Because I just want to say, I mean, when we spoke with all these people, we saw their frustration and said, I don't want yet another platform to procure, to pay for, also because let's be very honest, not cheap at all, right?
Not cheap.
So what exactly was the thought process that we had? And I just want to kind of like do the so-called we say in Italian la marchetta and say, so what was the main thought process that we put behind addressing that issue in VAT and say, can we actually
Oh,
solve that?
what VAT does is just providing automatic hook into adding cache support, so that whenever you start, it just cache is if you give it a Redis URL, it just rolls out of the box
Okay, but I mean, there
with
was
no
also
changes to
plugin.
your app, with no changes to your next app.
Okay, and if I needed to use the plugin that you mentioned that we wrote, how much work that would be?
Oh, you will need to configure and set it up and so on and so forth. It's not a lot of work, but it is some work.
Okay, but where is the real advantage of like running then Next in worker threads?
The biggest advantage is that you can actually use threading and multi-threading. So, and because if you have some of those, we didn't talk too much about this. Some of those catastrophic event loop conditions that can happen due to the massive spike in traffic arriving.
Well, also because you're using a lot of CPU, right?
You're using a lot of CPUs now. Using more CPUs per pod allows you better load distribution, but also allows you to essentially prevent certain catastrophic failures by watching from the status of those threads directly without having to shut down the full pod. So instead of shutting down the full pod, you can just shut down the thread, and that will be way better and way faster to recover.
Okay, I want to pause you here.
Yay. This is a long topic, Luca. You opened up a can
So
of
let's do this. We pause it, and next time we're gonna talk about the catastrophic events in Next,
Yay. Let's do it.
and a little bit the render life cycle. We try to kind of like deep dive into why the approach that we decided to take probably is best suitable for modern self-hosted Next, more than how traditionally people were hosting. Are you okay with that?
Let's do that.
Then let's do it. everyone. Thanks a lot for tuning in
Bye,
today, and
guys.
talk to you
Bye
next
bye.
week. Ciao, Teo.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao.